welcome, and welcome back to another episode of.
Race Rats podcast.
You just went from having so much energy before this to getting so quiet.
I'm trying to tone it down, otherwise it was just going to be way over the top. It's calm energy now, or it's going to be just.
It makes one of us.
Or I'm just going to have a little meltdown. No meltdowns today.
All right. We are getting this episode out kind of late because it is one of two of the worst times of the year for an F1 fan. It's summer break, or in our case, it's winter break.
But it's not a break. We get no break.
We had a little break. We had a little week break.
Who?
You know what I mean? We delayed this for a week.
Oh yeah, that is
Race
true.
Rats had a
little
break.
Yeah, Race Rats had a little break, but life goes on.
Yeah. You know what they say.
What do they say? I don't know what they say. What?
Best favorite animal? Chihuahua.
The what?
It's my best favorite animal.
Your best favorite?
Chihuahua.
Chihuahua?
Chihuahua.
My best favorite animal is the chimp. Okay, back on topic. We're getting distracted.
We already done it. Anyway, yeah. We are filming during summer break, winter break for us. Hence our lovely attire.
Still cold.
Still very cold for us. To talk about you don't even remember what the last one is?
No, I don't.
Belgium.
Spa.
Yeah. See, she remembers once we get there.
It's been over a week. That is as far as my memories can go back.
But so much has happened. So let's get into it because I want to take a little different direction on this after we talk about the race weekend. Sound cool with you?
Mm-hmm.
Love that. So, getting straight into it. Starting with FP1, we did see. Oh, I love when there's a little bit of a switch up. Can you stop playing?
Sorry.
Oh my god.
It's just fluffy.
Yep. Shouldn't have bought you a fluffy one. Love a bit of a switch up in the boards, seeing people up there we don't expect to see. Because top 3 for FP1 was Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, and Alex Albon.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, we saw Williams up there.
Bit different, Williams.
Bit different. We did see Esteban Ocon not set a time in FP1 due to his car having some issues. Unfortunately, the Alpine once again had some issues. Luckily, let's get that out of the way in FP1. Then we had FP2, which made me very proud again, with Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Max Verstappen.
2 McLaren.
Papaya back on top. And FP3, once again, just switching it up with Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, and Pierre Gasly.
Pierre Gasly.
I was happy with that one.
Nice.
Stop the leaderboard. Let me have my little French up there for a minute. It was nice to see him up there. And 4th was Lando Norris, 5th was Ocon. So, yeah, Alpine did well in FP3. Interesting. Then we got qualifying. So we'll go back to front, as we usually do. Zhou Guanyu, Logan Sargent, Yuki Tsunoda, Kevin Magnussen, and Nico Hulkenberg being the first 5 out, unfortunately. Yuki's having a bit of a bad run lately after having such a great start to the season.
Yuki.
Having a bit of a bad run, unfortunately. But I think he'll go back to it after summer break. Reset, refresh. We'll see how he goes. Next 5 out being Lance Stroll, Valtteri Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon. And then top 10, back to front. Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz.
What in so
Eighth.
for eighth? Okay,
George Russell in 7th.
nice.
McLaren in 6th and 5th with Piastri and Norris.
Not bad.
Not great either, but hey, we move. Hamilton in dude, it's been a long day.
It has. If you can't tell, we are both
so tired,
exhausted to the point of delirium. So.
We're filming this after a very, very long day at work. If you want to know how long a day of work it is, the reason I just paused then is because my mind went blank and I almost said Logan Hamilton. That's a mashup I didn't think I'd ever say.
That shouldn't be funny. But
7-time world champion, 1-time point scorer, Logan Hamilton.
My favorite.
Anyway.
Oh no.
Hey, I mean, technically they're both part of the Mercedes family. Mercedes Williams is the same thing. Anyway.
Same thing, how?
Anyway. Hamilton in 4th. Sergio Perez in 3rd. Charles Leclerc in 2nd. And on pole position, Max Verstappen. But going into this weekend, there was a fun little factor we knew with Max Verstappen. And that is that Red Bull had changed so many components in his car leading up to this.
I remember this.
That he was actually getting a 10-place grid penalty, which meant pole position was no longer pole position. He was starting in 11th. Fortunately, we had somebody else. Unfortunately, with a grid penalty, that they had a 60-place grid penalty, if I remember correctly.
How does that even work? 60
so
places.
It's an accumulation. So every component they change accumulates more and more. So this driver accumulated a 60-place grid penalty due to components being changed on his car. Anything over a 15-place grid penalty, you just immediately start at the back. So, P20.
Yeah.
And that was, unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda.
Wow.
The funniest part about this, though, we do have to laugh in these moments, is when he got told in the media pen how many grid spots he was supposed to be taking, which was the 60, his reaction was just, oh, wow. It was the cutest, funniest thing.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Yuki Tsunoda.
What a cutie.
It was just really funny. Just his reaction, just to be like, oh, okay.
His name should be Cutie Tsunoda.
She's that delirious.
His middle name. Although I don't think Japanese people have middle names. But anyways, moving on.
So yes, obviously Verstappen had the 10th place, moving down to 11th, which then put Charles Leclerc on pole.
Woohoo!
Starting grid.
Chameleon Leclerc.
Chameleon Leclerc. Everything moved up a place from 10th onwards, which did see Checo on the front row. What did he do with that? Let's find out.
The sea jumper from Kmart.
Yeah.
Nice. It's nice color.
Yeah, I went back for it.
I thought it looked familiar, so when you were looking at it, didn't buy, but
I went back for it.
It's good.
I went back for it in the middle of the night. I think I was buying this when something we're going to talk about later happened, and yeah. So race results. 10th to first. We did have in 10th place Esteban Ocon. 9th place Fernando Alonso. 7th place Checo Perez. Started on the front row, ended up in 8th. Thank you. Eek. Not looking good. In 7th place, Carlos Sainz.
That's not very good.
Mm,
I mean, it's a horrible.
right in
race.
front of him in 6th place, Lando Norris.
Not great.
I
either.
didn't have a great week, if you can't tell.
Sucks to be you.
Okay. 5th place, so Max Verstappen.
That's interesting.
Not even on a podium again.
But considering where he started.
Yeah, but like
that's
compared to what he used to, he's won
Yeah.
from further back than that.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that Red Bull's really having to work for a win at the moment. Real racing is back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's nice to see how each week it's actually
It's not just a Max Verstappen dominance. It's nice to see a bit of a switch up. 4th place, Charles Leclerc. 3rd place, Oscar Piastri. 2nd place, Lewis Hamilton. And our race winner on a very impressive one-stop strategy, George Russell. Mr. T-Pose himself.
Yay!
But don't clap too much just yet, because this is what we need to talk about.
Oh.
Very, very impressive one-stop strategy. A little bit disappointed because I feel like I'm a little bit biased here, but also having watched it, like, it makes sense. Lando and Carlos both went into this race suggesting a one-stop. They thought they could do it. They're pretty good with tire management, especially Carlos.
Yeah.
Really good with this kind of thing. They got ignored by their teams. Once again, McLaren strategy not going too well. That's a whole other thing. But they weren't listened to, and the race winner was a one-stop strategy.
Right.
But that one-stop strategy that did win George Russell, that they gave him the win, also took that win away from him. So we had 1 DNF in the race and 1 disqualification for the first race this year. We saw Zhou Guanyu, unfortunately, not finish due to issues with the car.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. These things do happen, unfortunately, though. And we saw George Russell disqualified.
What?
Due to regulations, when the car was weighed post-race, as they have to do, it came in 1.5 kilos under the minimum weight. 1.5 kilos. Think how light that is.
Aren't they supposed to weigh it before the race? Or wouldn't it make sense to weigh it before the race so they know?
I'm not sure, but they have to. It also has to be weighed after to make sure they are with compliance. And it has come out since, obviously, that it looks very, very much like that 1.5 kilos is from his tires. Because when you see the tires after, Spa is a track that they don't do a victory lap on because it is a very long track.
Yeah.
And as we saw with Oscar's tires, his win, and all the rubber he picked up on his cool down lap, which a lot of them do to add that weight back in, because obviously the degradation of the tires during the race takes a lot of that weight out of it. So the cool down lap picks up the debris to add a bit more weight back in. Spa not having that cool down lap or the victory lap meant George didn't get to do that.
Oh no.
And with how much degradation was on his tires from a one-stop strategy,
it was just left underweight because what? But that's not fair.
Because the one-stop strategy, if he'd done a two-stop, tires wouldn't have been as degraded.
But the one-stop strategy is what
got him the win. But he didn't take care of his tires. I mean, how much can you really take care of the tires on a one-stop? But yeah, it was very, very. I am not, it's no secret I'm not the biggest Mercedes fan. We've spoken about this. No hate towards them, just not my team. But it was very, very sad to see that win taken away from George for 1.5 kilos. 1.5 kilos.
So what happens? Does it just
goes to the next driver?
So where does he place then?
He doesn't. Disqualified.
Disqualified. That's
so the win did go to Lewis Hamilton, who unfortunately was not very happy with the race and left directly after. He wasn't waiting around to see anything that happened or results in that. He left that track. He said, bye, I'm out. So he wasn't even there to find out he won. That did move, obviously, Oscar up to P2 and Charles Leclerc onto the podium, P3. And he was asked by some media after, how does it feel to be promoted to that podium spot? And very noble answer of him was, it never feels good when it comes from a friend being disqualified, or something along those lines. Very noble answer of him. Very human. Thank you for understanding that, that is a hard time for George. Biggest thing I want to talk about is obviously Yuki and Daniel did not. Obviously Yuki and Daniel didn't have the best starting positions. Both of them made up positions, so both of them made up quite a few positions. Max, starting from P11, after all the disqualifications and everything, finishing P4, very clearly made up positions. The only Red Bull teamed driver, main and B team, that didn't make up positions and actually lost a lot of positions after starting on the front row, Checo Perez. Interesting. Even more interesting when it came out that Daniel Ricciardo was caught having a chat with Christian Horner and Laurent Meeks after the race, and looked very, very happy, as did they.
That's interesting.
Even more interesting when it came out. Oh, it gets better. Even more interesting when in the media pen, Checo was asked, will you still have a seat after summer break? Because as we all know, this was the pinnacle of it. This was the last race he had to prove himself. And he didn't. He faltered once again. And he said, yep, no, I'm sure I'll have a seat. When Daniel Ricciardo was asked the same question, now remember earlier in the season, the same thing was being said about him, of him being replaced in summer break. Obviously, he has vastly improved his performance. He said, I'll have a seat. I don't know which one yet, but I'll definitely have a seat in Zandvoort. So he knew something. And once again, the plot thickens even a little bit more when you see Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo leaving the track together, with Daniel Ricciardo holding both their helmets, Max holding a bottle of Daniel's wine, and then the selfie posted from the helicopter of the two of them back, like their teammate days.
I saw this photo, I think.
Yeah, so it was all very interesting. And you would think that that's the end of that, because we're in summer break. Oh, no. Things are never quiet in the Red Bull camp.
Stupid, silly.
Yeah, never think things are quiet in the Red Bull camp. So, talk around the paddock and on the streets is that it was confirmed, and it was actually told to the Verstappen family, that Max would be getting a new teammate in Zandvoort, the first race back.
Zen?
It's another Netherlands race.
Okay.
Which is the first race back after summer break.
Right. Okay.
So, again, being replaced in summer break. Now, we all know who that replacement was going to be. They were told. Everyone was very, very clear about it. Yeah.
I remember this. It's all coming back to me now.
It then came out that the largest investors of Formula One, Liberty Media, got in contact with Red Bull and said, hey, we don't want to lose sponsorship for the Mexican Grand Prix, which obviously comes a few races after summer break. Reconsider replacing Perez. Heavily reconsider this. Basically telling him you can't do it.
Or it's kind of like a veiled threat almost.
Because as much as tickets are sold, they still rely on merch sales and all that during the day, like the day of the Mexican Grand Prix. And as we learnt back in 2023, when Checo unfortunately crashed out first corner of the race, first corner, first lap,
people
so much of the grandstand just left. Didn't care anymore. Because obviously their home hero out.
Yeah, but
we
like,
don't care.
you paid that money to go see this.
They only wanted to see Checo.
You wouldn't want to stay to watch the rest?
No, well, Checo's out. They don't care. So Liberty Media obviously don't want to lose that money. Don't want to lose the sponsorship. Said, hey, axe that. Don't replace Perez. Obviously, there has now been word of a shootout happening between all the Red Bull and Beating Boys for who will have that seat for next year. They want to reshuffle the cards for next year. My biggest hope, based on statistics with the time trials and that the drivers have done, is with how well Ricciardo does in that Red Bull, putting him back in that Red Bull, which is what they always wanted to do. I think he could show his worth going back there. And another driver goes into V-Carb, which they are looking at replacing because having another RB on the track, they're realizing is a little bit hard for people to understand. Does give another driver the opportunity, who does deserve the opportunity because he's a phenomenal driver. Liam Lawson.
Yeah, he's a Kiwi?
Kiwi, yeah.
Like the Kiwis.
We like Lawson. He's a talented driver. It is in his contract though that he is supposed to have a 2025 seat, and if he does not get that, as we've spoken about before, he is allowed to walk away from the team.
In his contract?
Same contract.
How can they just like break contracts so easily?
Well, obviously he's had this contract for a few years now.
Yeah.
But again, if they don't give him that 2025 seat, there is the clause in there that he can say, I'm done with Red Bull, I'm leaving. And with the talent he is and how many people have their eyes on him, I don't think it would be very hard for him to find a seat. So, yeah, all of this has since come out. The Verstappen family are not too happy. This is basically Red Bull handing the constructors over to McLaren. I'll happily take that. Everybody go home for the rest of the year. McLaren's got constructors. Thank you. Been a great one.
We're all
Let's
done.
go.
Thanks.
Pack it up. We're fine. Which would be very, very nice to see for the first time in such a long time, McLaren getting that constructors. But yeah, this is basically Red Bull handing over that trophy.
To say I still don't fully understand the whole concept of the constructors, but
do you want me to explain it?
I will try my best to
comprehend. Okay. So you've got the two championships. You've got the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship. Now, the Drivers is solely based driver by driver.
Yeah.
So obviously, Max has won the Drivers' Championship for the last 3 years. And it's a points-based system. So every race, the top 10 get points. Obviously, first place is 25 points. Second place, I think, is, oh my god, I feel like I'm blanking. I think it's about 18 points. Like it drops. And it drops rapidly after the podium places. So all the way down to 10th place, which is 1 point.
But you get points.
Up until 10th place. Anything after that, you're just fighting for positions at that point. As the season goes on, obviously you want to keep collecting as many points as possible. The person with the most amount of points by the end of the season is the Drivers' Championship. Or, in Max Verstappen's case, in the last year, 2 years, possibly, I know at least last year, by a certain point in the year, he had accumulated so many points that even if somebody else won every race up until the end, they could still not have enough points to overtake him. So he won. He won in Qatar. By Qatar last year. Oh, my knee. By Qatar last year, Max Verstappen had won the Drivers' Championship. Now, the Constructors' Championship is team-based. So that requires both drivers. It's similar to the Drivers' Constructors, is where, simplest way to put it, I'm going to say McLaren, Lando has 20 points, Oscar has 20 points. That means in the constructors, they have 40 points. So it's an accumulation of both the drivers' amount of points.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you want both drivers to do well, because the more points they're getting themselves, the more points it accumulates to as a team.
Yeah.
So last year, Max had gotten so many points by Qatar to not only win the Drivers' Championship, but was so far ahead of everyone else that at the end of the year, I don't even think it made it to the end of the year. I think it was like that race or a few races after. Red Bull had also won Constructors, because in the standings at the end of the year, when you looked at it, because obviously people still get points after this, Max alone had enough points to have won the Constructors by himself. I think Mercedes came second, and their accumulation of both drivers' points was still less than what Max had made by himself. Max carried the team.
Kind of funny.
And like Checo didn't do too bad last year.
Yeah.
Like Max carried the team. Now, with how Perez has been performing, if this continues, Red Bull are not that far ahead of McLaren right now. So the way that McLaren are steadily rising and have had great races, honestly, versus Verstappen and Perez level, they're climbing the points very rapidly, whereas Verstappen is stepping, and he's doing well, but it's just him. He's carrying the entire weight of that constructors on his back, because Perez is just not.
Yeah, he's just not.
Whereas McLaren is doing so well that both of them are just pushing it. So,
cool.
In short, constructors needs both drivers' points. Drivers is just based on their points themselves. So yeah, Red Bull has basically just handed that off to McLaren, because, as I said, McLaren is climbing that rapidly, whereas Verstappen is stepping it, but it's only Verstappen. It's quite funny because I keep coming across these edits on TikTok of like who will be the constructors this year to the song from Minions 4. And it's got like Red
Is that
Bull.
why you had that in your playlist in the car?
Oh no, there's other reasons.
Why do you have the Minions song?
Because there's some really good edits to it. But no, there's specific edits that have been making me absolutely lose my mind. Like, I cannot stop laughing at them. And it's like, who will be the constructors this year, right? And it's got, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren. And for McLaren, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. For Ferrari, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. For Red Bull, Max Verstappen. I've been losing it over there because it's so funny. It's so like everybody knows it's just Max. Red Bull is Max. That's it. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens towards the end of the year, because obviously announcements will have to be made, because that VCARB seat is one of the, I think, like 3 or 4 that are left on the grid now to go through. Yeah. Speaking of seats left, if you couldn't tell that I'm a little bit brighter this week, the first day of summer break, thought we'd get peace. I mean, never peace with Formula One. Thought we'd have a little bit of a break, because, all we kept hearing is, I'll make a decision when I make a decision. The first day of summer break, surprise, Carlos Sainz has a seat.
He has a very himself's own seat. That's not what I meant to say. But
Carlos Sainz has a seat. Now, what we were talking about before when she mentioned my jumper is, I was actually on my way home from closing at work. It was the middle of the night. I decided to go to Kmart, little Kmart run, had to go grab some things, wanted this jumper. I'm literally walking, like I've made it to the checkout. Now, the self-checkouts, because it's the middle of the night. It is like 12:30 at night. And my phone's going off. And I have my phone on Do Not Disturb. Like, I have it on a focus mode all the time. So I don't get my push notifications unless it's like pushing through for a reason. I'm like, what the hell? Why is my phone going off so much? Like, this isn't normal for it. It's a group chat. The group chat's trying to get a hold of me.
And you're just,
I'm like, what have I done? Like, what's going on? Like, what have I done? I open my phone. There's a barrage of messages at me being like, where are you? Carlos
Girl.
Sainz announces he's signed to Williams.
Wow.
I'm in Kmart. It's the middle of the night. My favorite security guard's looking at me because I'm looking at my phone like,
you're just like
what the
smiling
fuck?
like a crazy person.
I'm not even smiling. I'm in such shock that I'm sitting there looking at my phone, being like, what the fuck? What is it? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to react. I had to get out of that Kmart ASAP because I was like, I need to process this. I sat in my car for a good like half an hour after this, just trying to process this. Started crying at one point. Just randomly start crying because part of it was like very much relief because I no longer have to worry. I didn't really worry about him having a seat next year because obviously I knew he was getting one somewhere. But as the seat's closer, I'm like, what's left? So part of me was crying in relief because we finally know where he's going. Part of me cried a little bit because the way the Williams team reacted to this news was so wholesome.
Yeah.
When the video got played in the Williams factory for a good like 30-40 seconds, no one could hear anything. It was just cheering and clapping, and seeing Carlos grow and like leave McLaren, which was a home to him, and the McLaren team still love him and still consider him part of their family. When he left McLaren, they made a video for Ferrari basically being like, take care of him. Breaks my heart every time. So this, to me, is his first home since McLaren.
Shout out to, sorry to interrupt. Shout out to my friend Sarah, who was there in the room with the Williams people when they announced it. You a real one. We love you. Please don't leave.
I have a sleeve, but
please don't leave Williams. Stay there so we can get connections. She doesn't watch this podcast. Anyways,
good job.
Great work. Shout out.
It's phenomenal work.
She's too busy actually working for Williams, so
I'm trying to do the same. James Vowles, answer my DMs. I'm selling Carlos Sainz. James Vowles, answer my DMs, because that's the other funny thing with this is obviously I'm so happy, but it's been over a week now, and it's still coming out most days. James Vowles needs to just learn to stop it, shut your mouth, because it's gotten to the point where the things that he has said about trying to sign Carlos, his wife has made a comment of she's not sure the relationship he has with Carlos compared to their marriage. What do you mean James Vowles is out here saying, yeah, lots of late night hotel room visits?
Yeah, calls and whatnot. That's a little scandalous.
Like, my brain short-circuited because what do you mean James Vowles had lots of late night hotel room visits and calls and home visits? And James Vowles, stand up. Get in line like the rest of us. We all wanted him too. God. But no, Carlos sees a lot of hope in this team. And if there's one thing I can say about Carlos Sainz, because I don't say enough ever, is Carlos Sainz hasn't always been in a top team like Ferrari.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz has been in those back marker and midfield teams, and he's made them great teams. He made Renault better. Okay, he was a Red Bull Junior. He was a Toro Rosso boy. Love the Toro Rosso boys. Did great there. Moved to Renault. Renault was a back marker. Moved to like more midfield, even higher midfield. He left Renault when Daniel took his seat and went to McLaren. Moved McLaren from where it was up again. Obviously caught the attention of someone to move from McLaren to Ferrari. And yes, unfortunately, he is being replaced in Ferrari, but he is being replaced by a 7-time world champion. If there's anyone that's going to replace you, you want it to be someone of that caliber. So you can't really be mad at that point. Like, oh, you're replacing me with a 7-time world champion. Kind of makes sense. Unfortunate as it was, it makes a little sense. So I'm not that worried about Carlos to Williams because at the end of the day, he sees potential in them. He himself as a driver has put that potential into enough teams that I think this could be a great pairing. And as long as they care about him and what he has to say as a driver, because at the end of the day, the engineers look at all the data and all that. I understand that. You've got the strategists, all of that. Nobody knows how that car feels and drives better than the driver. They are the one in that seat. They are the one that gets the feel of the track. They are the one that can sit there and go, oh, okay, throttle doesn't feel right. But the statistics that's getting sent back to the engineers say the throttle's fine. But no, that driver's feeling throttle's not right. You need that data from the driver. And he is such a brilliant mind that that data can bring Williams what they need and bring Williams back to glory, I think. Let's move them up. And having Albon as a teammate, Albon's very sweet, very wholesome. We know about the appendixing.
Yeah, they're the first appendixless team.
Yeah, talk about
F1
weight.
history.
Don't need to worry about heavy cars when you got appendixless drivers. They go faster. But also when Carlos had his surgery, it came out, like he spoke about it in an interview, that Alex would come to the Ferrari garage and help him buckle in so he didn't hurt his wounds.
That's so cute.
And they're about to be teammates.
I
so
love
that's
that.
lovely.
They're going to take care of each other, I think.
I think it's going to be really lovely to see. So I am excited. Does mean that I go from wearing papaya and little bits of red.
This.
I still papaya. Still McLaren.
Remember this.
Wow, okay. Still wearing papaya. Still a McLaren girl. But incorporating hints of blue now, which I'm very lucky that blue is a color that works for me, because I don't know what I would have done if it was Steak F1 Team Kick Sauber green.
I love that color green though.
It doesn't work for me.
I love it.
Thank you.
You had that color hair for a bit.
I did have that color hair for a bit. I've also had blue for a lot. Blue was like my go-to because it works for me.
I had blue, but it didn't really work for me.
But yeah, very, very excited to see my little chili signs. Has signed.
Give a little sneak peek of the.
We don't let the dogs on camera, but I am wearing chili socks right now.
Yeah, you could blur them, but that would defeat the purpose.
Yeah, you like show your socks, but we'll blur them. That doesn't make sense.
They're cute. They're little chilies, and the phone case has got chilies on it too.
But unfortunately, we record with that, so you can't see that.
And she's got a little emotional support chili.
My emotional support chili, yeah. Take that everywhere with me. Cute. It's a little squeaky toy, because I am
a dog.
Yep. Woof woof. We were talking at the start about wanting to take a bit of a different direction. I don't really have much to say, obviously, coming out of Belgium, because it wasn't much other than the heartbreak of Russell and the Red Bull drama, which we did talk about. But as we get into this season, obviously, this first season of Race Rats was to teach G a bit more about F1. Season 2 of we can't do that. She's learned. We're going to be going to a race.
Yeah.
She's going to be pretty versed in it, so there's not going to be much teaching left to do.
I'm not an expert still. There's still stuff I don't fully understand that I don't know about, but I feel like I probably can't be considered like a, what's the word? I'm not like a newbie anymore. I know stuff.
So, in saying that, we're going to take a little bit of a direction of what I do best, and that is analyzing, because we know I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And with my talents in being a PR girly, we're going to start...
My talents in sitting and listening.
We do that. We are going to be going into a bit of analyzing the media pen, driver emotions, that kind of thing, because at the end of the day, they come out of those cars very heated. Why not talk about what they should and shouldn't say?
There is a lot that you can read from looking at their faces, their body language, and all that kind of stuff that indicates how they're feeling about their races and etc.
Yeah. So we want to move into that a little bit more, because obviously we want to keep this going, and can't be a new fan and a teacher forever. So we want to branch out a little bit so we can keep this going, what we love doing most. Anything else you want to talk about this week?
I think there was something, but now I can't.
No?
Head empty.
Head empty, no think? We love that.
No thoughts.
I don't think I have anything else. There's been no other driver announcements.
Drama?
No.
Paddock goth?
not that I want to talk about because the person that it involves does not need any more promotion.
It's a funny little thing to add. I've been watching a bit of the Olympics lately, a lot actually. You thought I'd get a little break from F1 with that, but apparently not. There are lookalikes everywhere.
Lookalikes everywhere, but also you've mentioned it and it's reminded me. Um, lovely homegrown boy,
That's
Keegan
right.
Palmer,
Yeah.
skateboarder, bringing back-to-back gold back to Australia. So proud of him. And you said mentioning F1, which is
Yeah.
funny because during his routine they did mention um, his record break, his world record break with Lando driving.
Yeah.
And then the next day on one of the Australian news shows, when they were interviewing him about his gold and that, he immediately mentioned that he was on his way to Ibiza to meet up with Lando.
Because
And the photos came out today of it. So.
he's an athlete from what's it called again? How is he connected with Lando again?
Oh, because Keegan is signed to Quadrant, which is Lando's company. It was an esports company at first. They have branched out this year to have Quadrant athletes, which they sponsor 4 athletes currently. One being Keegan Palmer, which was a really, really cool business venture when they brought that out. I thought that was such a great idea for them. And yeah, Keegan has now got his second gold medal for Australia back to back from the 2020 Olympics. And yeah, on your Keegs. Proud of that one as a Quadrant fan and as an Australian more so. And now he's out partying in Ibiza with
What a
Lando
legend.
in matching outfits with Lando. Why don't we do
And
that?
Lando's wearing his hat.
Yeah, Lando's out here
Quadrant.
wearing the Australian Olympic hat from Keegan. Cool, love that. Aussie Pride Lando.
Woohoo.
God, he wishes he was Australian so bad.
Sucks to be him.
Yeah.
Could only be so lucky.
He'd be so lucky, you know. But I don't think there's anything else to say. We'll leave it at that. We'll see you in a couple more weeks as we continue summer break. And hopefully next episode, when we come back to you from Zenvoort, we have some more driver announcements. Hopefully.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Do you think?